On today's Locked On Nationals, I am joined by Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com, and we're going to be getting into multiple different things, but I want to start off with should and could the Washington Nationals trade one of their top prospects, Brady House?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals for all your latest Nationals news and notes. Make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And while you're at it, search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, including over on YouTube. Again, search Locked On Nationals and hit that subscriber button. So we are joined today by Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com, covers the Washington Nationals for, again, MASN Sports. Later on in the show, we'll discuss, are we feeling a little bit more confident in the Nationals being buyers this offseason and really kind of spending in free agency with all the different rumors that are out there and free agents that are linked to the Nats? We'll have that discussion for you later on. And also Alex Bregman, because Kylie McDaniel from ESPN projected that the Nationals and has heard that the Nationals are in on Alex Bregman, the former one of the MVP favorites back in 2019. I discussed this yesterday, so I do want to get Bobby's take on that and kind of open up the floor for discussion on if we should be interested in Alex Bregman. But we're going to start off discussing Brady House. And the reason why we're talking about Brady House today, Bobby, is because if the Nationals do go after an Alex Bregman, I would believe that I think the Nationals would use Brady House as trade bait. So I want to get your thoughts on that. But before that, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, Bobby, to pose that thought to you, if the Nationals, well, not even sign Alex Bregman, like, do you think there's any possibility where Brady House could be traded at some point this offseason?
I think the only possibility would be if they were going to sign an Alex Bregman. Now, you could also make the argument that even if they sign Bregman, you could switch Brady House to first base, and he could be your first baseman of the future, where you also have Andy Morales. I believe last time we talked, I mentioned that I think a power hitting first baseman is probably their priority position-wise this offseason because they don't have anybody in the minor league system to really fill that role. You have Joey Gallo's option being declined. You have Joey Meneses becoming a minor league free agent. So, they ended the season with Andres Chaparro playing first base a majority of the time. And, I mean, no offense to him. And also thoughts and prayers to him and his family after what they just went through the last week, losing their young daughter. And It's just unbelievably sad. But, back to baseball, which is obviously very trivial to that. They don't have a minor league first baseman in the waiting. And it would be a Yo-Yo, maybe a Brady, because they do have a lot of power in their potential. Their defense, while they're both athletic dudes at third, their defense has been a question mark in their development. So I would think, to answer your question, I would think the only situation where Brady would be available in trades is if they did go after Alex Bregman or someone like him to be your third baseman of the future for the next 5 to 7 years, whatever it may be. I don't think they're going to try. Other than that, I think they'll try to do kind of a makeshift thing over at third until Brady's ready. And I think we'll probably see Brady make his debut next season. And he'll be the third baseman of the future. But, if they really want to go all in starting next year, Bregman would be a good place to start. And then you can then shop around and see Brady's listed as their third overall prospect for MLB Pipeline. So that's the top prospect from a top farm system that could net you, maybe a starting pitcher, maybe, another, I would say starting pitcher. I mean, that's where I would start right there. So, it is fun to kind of weave these webs in the off season. But I would think their priorities lie more in signing the first baseman starting pitcher than signing a third baseman and then trading some of their top prospects.
Like there's a part of me that thinks, and I've said this for quite some time, like I'm very high on Brady House. Like I do believe that he could be the Nationals' third baseman of the future. I think the appeal of him is really high. I think he's really good defensively, has the potential to be kind of a Gold Glover, in my opinion. I've seen him make incredible plays down in the minors over at the hot corner there. Obviously, at the plate, he's got 60 grade power. I mean, we've seen that flash from time to time. He has really good contact ability as well. He's got to put some things together, but he's still young. And I'm really high on Brady House, but are the Nationals really high on Brady House? Like, is Mike Rizzo really high on him? And I just don't necessarily know at this opinion. Obviously, I don't know if you know this, Poppy, but I mean, would it shock you to say that the Nationals would rather move off of Brady House rather than, let's say, a Yohandy Morales? Because you get lost in these prospect ranks and you kind of get lost in where these guys are drafted. And Brady House was a first-round pick. Morales was a second-round pick. Those are the two third basemen that you have in the system. Seaver King is in the fold as well now. Obviously, I mean, in my opinion, I'm actually higher on both those two guys ahead of Seaver King. But is there a possibility where the Nationals are just like, you know what, like Brady House, he's good, but we think that we could probably fill this hole with an Alex Bregman type and trade Brady House and get the most value possible out of someone like a Yohandy Morales or signing an Alex Bregman, whatever it is, and you can get a legit starting pitcher in the building? Like, do you think that the Nationals could be maybe not that high on Brady House as we are from the outside looking in?
No. Short answer, no. I think from what I've heard, people I've talked to, I think they're still very high on Brady. I think they're very happy with the way he developed this year, reaching Rochester, playing well up there, playing honestly better than he did at AA, even though in a short amount of time. And so I think they're very happy with his progression. Remember, he came in as a top 11 draft pick as a shortstop, said he wanted to stay at shortstop. Everyone thought he was going to move to third. He finally moved to third, and he's performed really well over there. He dealt with some injuries over his first couple of seasons in the system, but then once he got healthy, he really took off and is becoming one of their top prospects. And then I think he's getting some national recognition too. I think he's like on the edge or already cracked some top 100s at the end of this season. So, no, I think the Nationals are still very high on Brady. I think they would be very content and happy with him being their third baseman of the future. It's just all about their timeline, right? Like, we've talked about this timeline back to success, back to winning, ever since they traded Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. What's the timeline of this rebuild? So if they truly believe that next year can be the year that, they can compete in the National League East, they can compete for a pennant, they can compete for a World Series, then maybe you speed up that timeline and say, okay, we need actually more of a, power hitting, consistent everyday third baseman that's established in the major leagues like an Alex Bregman more than, developing Brady House at the major league level like they did with James Wood and Dylan Cruz this year. I don't think that's the way they're going to go about it because I personally don't think that next year is that year. I think they can be much better next year. And we've talked about this. I think they can be a team that, come August and September, they're still in the mix. I'm thinking like a 2022 Orioles team that won, over 87 games or something when they were supposed to lose 100 games. So I can see that being the Nationals' path next year, and it's like make it for so much better baseball, much more interesting down the stretch, but maybe fall short, maybe sneak in as a wild card depending how the rest of the league shakes out. So I just don't think that they're going to go down that train of thought in terms of next year's the year we need to go all in. So we need a Bregman and we can, pass on Brady. I think they're going to stick with Brady. I think they're going to stick with obviously Dylan and James. They're going to try to, Robert Hassel's killing in the Arizona Fall League. They're going to try to get Robert fully healthy and back up to the major league level at some point next year. I think they're going to be banking on the young guys that they have acquired in trades, drafted, signed in the international market, and try to build up the way that way. And then once you get to that point, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, but when you're major league ready with those guys, then you go and make a big free agent acquisition. Then you can kind of trade some of your lower prospects for a starting pitcher, a Pete Alonso type, whatever it may be. So it's all about timeline for me, and in terms of how they're going to handle Brady. But I still think they're very, very high on him.
Yeah, I do think that as well. And there's only a few guys I would trade Brady House for, and that's a different discussion for a different day. But I'll give you one of the names, like Garrett Crochet. Like I'm really high on him. Yeah. Like he's one of those guys where he's under team control for the next few seasons. He was dominant with a terrible White Sox team this year, and people kind of sleep on the fact that like when you know you're one of, if not the worst team of all time, to go out there every 5 days knowing you have an awful defense behind you, it's like it's hard to do that. And he put up really good numbers, and we've seen how bad defense can impact starting pitching, as the Nationals over the last few seasons have had just putrid defensive play. And some starting pitchers have come up and thrived. And if you have better defense behind you, it makes you a little bit more confident, which then helps your stuff, which is just kind of goes in that domino effect to be a better pitcher. But speaking of being better, the Nationals, they are inked to a couple different guys. And Kylie McDaniel from ESPN, while he just kind of put it in his piece that the Nationals that he has heard, they are rumored to be in on Alex Bregman. We kind of talked about that earlier on the show. I talked about that on yesterday's show. And I think it's interesting. Like, I want to get your thoughts on that because I know you want Pete Alonso, and I'll share kind of what I would rather have, Pete Alonso or Alex Bregman, with you here. But I do want to get your thoughts on this. Before we get into it, though, Bobby, I'm going to tell everybody about my friends over at Ibotta. And of course, you love the holidays but hate grocery shopping. Ibotta is making your Thanksgiving easier with cash back on everything you need to make your perfect holiday meal, so you can get the turkey and your favorite sides for free. That's right. This month, Ibotta is giving new users 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipt. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can get everything you need for the holidays. Download the Ibotta app and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast starting November 1st. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Now, let me tell you guys about some of our also very good friends over at FanDuel. And of course, you have to get ready to tackle the NFL action this weekend with FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. You get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, you live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. All you have to do is go to FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So we get back into it with Bobby Blanco from NASNsports.com. And Bobby, for the audio viewers at home, you are decked out in Gonzaga gear right now.
Let's go.
What's going on?
Dude, it's the Gonzaga-St. John's game tomorrow. It's the oldest Catholic high school football rivalry in the country. Over 100 games played, over 100-year-old rivalry. So it's being renewed tomorrow. Doesn't matter the record. It's one of those games where it doesn't matter the record. You always want to win. You know, I'm sure you guys have seen the signs in the Washington Post or on social media of like all the Go Gonzaga beat St. John's from hanging over, across not just the city, but the country, the world over the years. So, yeah, man, got to support the boys. I'm actually right now texting my buddies trying to find a ticket for the game. They usually play at a neutral site, but it's at St. John's tomorrow. So I'm going to try to sneak in and see if I can see the boys pull off an upset.
Really? So you can't even get a ticket?
I mean, they're just like so they sell them to like family, obviously the students for both schools, and well, that's why they used to do a neutral site, because they could get more people to go. But when it's at one of the schools, it's just they don't have enough space, so they sell only a limited amount of tickets. So trying to find a way to get into the game. They usually also play at night. It's a 1:00 game tomorrow, which I don't know why that is, but big rivalry game tomorrow. I don't know the playoff implications of it. I'm sure it has something because we're both pretty good. But gotta rep the boys no matter what.
Well, yeah, you heard it here first. Caleb Williams went to Gonzaga. I mean, Bobby is a Chicago Bears fan after all. I thought he was a Commanders fan. So he hates Jaden Daniels. That's what I've heard.
Yep. I was actually thinking, you know what? I'm kind of glad Caleb's not here. One, I like Jaden's game better. Two, I don't want that pressure for Caleb playing for his hometown team.
Yeah, we've seen the hometown guys come home, and it hasn't worked out. So glad it's working out with Jaden Daniels and the Washington.
But for James Wood's working out.
James Wood is working out. That's right. We're talking football specifically.
Yes.
Chase Young did not work out here in D.C., unfortunately. So
yeah,
that's something for all the DeMatha guys at home. I'm sorry. But yeah, it did not work out. So, Bobby, let's get into it. Alex Bregman has been rumored to come here to DC. And honestly, we've talked about this. I want them to go out and get Pete Alonso. He is my target in free agency. And I kind of pinned those two together yesterday. Would I rather have Pete Alonso over Alex Bregman? And I said yes. I don't know what it is because Alex Bregman is the better player. He has had postseason success. We saw him in 2019. I mean, he was runner-up in the MVP conversation in 2019. The Gold Glove winner this past season over at third base. It's looking more likely that he moves on from Houston as we sit here today. But I don't know if I really want Alex Bregman. I would be perfectly fine with him. I'd be thrilled with him. But I would much rather, and I think it would probably mean a little bit more to this lineup to have a Pete Alonso in this lineup. What do you say?
I agree with that sentiment. I think that what this lineup I think they're going to be very good defensively. And I know Pete Alonso isn't great defensively at first base, but what they need more than anything is power. And Bregman can provide some power. I mean, he hit for 26 homers this past year, and that was after a terrible start to the season. But he's hit 31 and 41 in his career before. So, he has some of that pop, but, it's not Pete Alonso pop, right? It's not guys he's going to hit consistently 30-plus homers, 40-plus homers, and destroying the home run derby. I think that's the kind of power the Nationals need. And yes, while first base is important, it's not as important as third base defensively. And I think that they can have a solid defender at third. I would rather take Pete Alonso's bat at first than Bregman's glove at third because I think that the Nats can find kind of a replacement value defensively at third base while Pete Alonso brings more of an offensive upside.
Yeah, I don't know what it is because, we talk about this a lot. You need that veteran leadership, and I think Bregman would be that guy over a Pete Alonso. Not to say Pete Alonso isn't a leader. He was the Mets guy the last 7 seasons. But Alex Bregman has won multiple World Series. He has done it in the postseason. I mean, the lights are never too bright for him. He has shined on the biggest stage in baseball. I just think at this moment in time, as you were saying, we need more power. You need someone who's going to be a home run threat. And the other side of the table could be someone saying, well, that's going to be James Wood. And we like to believe that's going to be James Wood, but I need someone who's going to be more sure than that. And I'm pretty damn sure that James Wood could and probably will hit 40 home runs someday. But I'm not willing to bake on that at this point. I don't want James Wood going into the season being like, listen, man, you're going to have to put the team on the back. That's not, and that should not be the case for a young prospect. James Wood will be very good, but I would like to see the more sure thing and get a Pete Alonso type in this building. And then again, I think that will just mean more for this Nationals ball club down the line. And I think it'll fare pretty well for a team that needs a lot of help. But in my opinion, they need the help offensively more than anything.
Yeah, and looking at the numbers real quick, Alex Bregman's single season high in homers is basically Pete Alonso's average in a season. So it's I would take that over what he provides elsewhere. Now, he didn't do as much this year. I think his walk rate was cut in half, but typically Alex does get on base more than Pete Alonso. So, you can kind of balance that. But I think with guys like Dylan Cruz, James Wood, Jacob Young, CJ Abrams, Luis Garcia, I think you'll have enough guys getting on base ahead of him. You're not going to need Pete Alonso getting on base. You're going to need him driving them in with extra base hits. So I would think that is a more of a clear, obvious fit than Bregman. Since we're talking mostly about Bregman versus Alonso, how do you think Nationals fans would welcome Alex Bregman after everything in 2019 in the World Series? Every time since he's been back, he's been heavily booed. Do you think Nationals fans would welcome with all? I mean, I know we're now years removed from that incident, but with all the baggage that comes with anyone that comes from that 2019 Astros team, do you think the Nationals fan base or even the people within the Nationals building will welcome someone like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I do think people will. I'm sure there'll be a pocket of the fans that'll be like, I don't want to see this guy in the building, but like, he's an all-star caliber player. He's a big name. I mean, if you get someone of his caliber in this building, that he's going to help you win regardless. I mean, he's still a very good baseball player, someone that you want in your clubhouse. And from all that I've heard, he seems like a great teammate. I know what he did in 2019. I'm a Nationals fan. We all watched it happen. I mean, it was pretty crappy what he did carrying the bat over to first base. I mean, Juan Soto shut him down real quickly after that. But, I mean, I would be fine with it. I think Nationals fans overall would be perfectly fine with it if you get them in the building. And I'm sure someone will ask him. You could ask him, Bobby, being like, hey, like, what was carrying the bat over to first base like? And what was it like getting booed every time you came back to DC? But I think people will be fine with it. At the end of the day, it's a competitive sport. Yeah. You're gonna show some flair, and honestly, I kind of like the flair from him. I don't like it coming against my team. If we lost that World Series, I'd probably say F this. I don't want to do this because I know Yankees fans out there. One of my good buddies, a big Yankees fan, and he's like, I want nothing to do with Alex Bregman. Yeah. But I would be perfectly fine with it. I think a lot of Nationals fans would be too. I think a bulk of them, like 90% of them, then you'll have that silent majority who will be really loud saying, I don't want this guy in this building. He's a cheater. He cheated in 2019. He cheated in 2017, 2018. I don't want this guy. But at the end of the day, this guy's still a very good baseball player. And I think you should want him in the building any day of the week.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's it is a business. So like, I think smart fans will get over that fact and be like, he's really good. He's even when he's not cheating, he's a very good player, and he will help this team undoubtedly. And I also don't think Mike Rizzo would sign someone if he thought there were any character issues at all.
Yeah.
He's been there, done that, and he does not like doing that anymore. So I think they would vet him pretty well and figure it out. It's just interesting to think, like, that 2019 Astros team, a majority of those major faces of that team are still there. The only one I can think of that is like a major departure, even Verlander left and came back. Obviously, Garrett Cole is with the Yankees, but like the biggest departure is Carlos Correa, but he went to the Twins, and that's not really like this would be a player that got caught cheating in a World Series going to the team that beat him in that World Series, that has a fan base that for now hates him. Like, it was just I can't think of anything like that. I think this would be very interesting. I think overall it becomes a nothing burger, but it would be definitely a storyline, once the news breaks and that first introductory press conference and, his first slump, like fans being like, well, he doesn't have the trash cans. He's not good, so it would just be, I think, pretty fascinating.
It would be fascinating. I'm sure you'd write about that on MASNsports.com. You're Bobby Blanco. I'm Ryan Clary. And Bobby, are you feeling more confident in the Nationals spending money with all these rumors going around? I want your answer after we tell you about our friends over at Robinhood. And of course, with Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and the perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA. account. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Now we get back into it with Bobby Blanco from massinsports.com. And Bobby, are you feeling a little bit more confident that the Nationals will be spending some serious money in free agency and potentially make a splash for someone like an Alex Bregman, or let's even throw out a name like Corbin Burns or a Pete Alonso type? Are you feeling more confident in that?
I am. I wasn't there, but just reading some of the quotes from Mike Rizzo at the general managers meetings in San Antonio this week, and he told us this at the end of the season, they feel like this is finally the offseason to, finally get back to making, free agent signings, big, significant free agent signings. So, it's been said on multiple times now on record. And again, he did point to that's a conversation I need to have with ownership. I think they will support us if it makes sense for the club. It comes down to whether or not ownership actually does approve something like that. I am confident, or if I'm a betting man, I would say, if everything works out and they get the guy that they actually want at a reasonable price, he'll get the green light and they'll be able to make that move. But I am feeling more confident because I do think, I look at this roster so much now in the offseason, and now that, free agency has started, some of the guys that were on it that we knew were coming off are officially off, so you can even see the holes a little more glaringly. And, man, that first base is looking pretty lonely. There's a spot maybe in the outfield that could be filled depending on how you
spot in the starting rotation as well.
There's definitely a spot
maybe
in the starting rotation.
Bullpen pieces.
You need someone to back up Kyle Finnegan and Derek Law at the back end of the rotation. Do you need someone to back up Keibert Ruiz as a starter? How much trust do you have in Riley Adams or Drew Millis being the backup catcher? So I think it's I do feel confident that they will do something. They'll do something more significant than they have over the past 3 off seasons. I'm actually going to have a write-up coming out on Sunday morning on the website, massinsports.com, kind of breaking down MLB trade rumors. They had their top 50 free agents of the offseason and made their predictions of where they're landing. I think there's 4 or 5 of those top 50 they predicted are going to land with the Nationals. Not all 5. There's 4 different writers.
Yep.
They each make their selections. Spoiler alert, Pete Alonso is one of them. But I kind of go through those and how they will fit with the Nationals. Does the contract make sense? Stuff like that. So it's going to be out on the website on Sunday morning. So while you're setting your fantasy lineups, you can also be reading that. But yeah, I am confident. I think this is now the time to at least do something, show the fan base, show those guys in that clubhouse that this is what we mean. We're ready. So many of those guys, Jake Irvin, Mackenzie Gore, James Wood, Dylan Cruz, all unpromptedly near the end of the season said, yeah, this is a good experience for us for next year when we're going to be competing for the playoffs. They all believe that next year is going to be the year they can compete for the playoffs. So if that's the case, reward them and add a major piece and try to get over that hump.
I totally agree with you, Bobby. And, you brought up an interesting point there with the backup catcher position. An interesting name that I think could be floated potentially down the line, Travis d'Arnaud. He's a free agent. I would love to get someone in the building like him. Who's been there and done that in the World Series, had some big home runs in years past. So I would love to have the Nationals go after a pretty premier backup / platoon catcher type situation. It would be interesting to push Keibert Ruiz a little bit. And he's certainly someone who needs to step up. And of course, Travis d'Arnaud is certainly capable of stepping in and being a starting catcher. So put a little heat on Keibert Ruiz. That would not be bad whatsoever. But Bobby,
real quick,
just
to point out on that topic, we can talk about it in more depth later, but look at what the Orioles did with James McCann up the road. James McCann came in, backed up Adley Rutschman, and helped Adley very much. So look for the Nationals maybe do something like that with Keibert.
Yeah, I think that'd be that's a great point too, Bobby. And I think we got to talk about that a little more in depth on next episode we get here together. But Bobby, always appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. Really appreciate it. It's always fun.
Of course. And you can catch Bobby Blanco on Twitter at Bobby_Blanco and catch his work at massinsports.com. Make sure to look for that piece this Sunday morning on November 10th, that Sunday. So catch that piece and you can see all the free agency rumors that Bobby will have written up for you. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.